At first, I was going to make a video about how the expedition was a hard patch for me, even the second one. But when you really sit back and think about it, what's the point of playing arcraiders if you're not going to do the expedition? My reasoning for skipping it originally actually made sense though. I was thinking, I'm going to lose all my blueprints, I'm going to lose all my weapons, I have to grind my benches all over again, you know what everybody else says. And I just wasn't interested in doing all of that, especially with the pressure of the excitement of the game being out, and you just didn't want to lose the blueprints that you thought were so rare. I mean, I only got a Tempest blueprint one time in over 300 hours. So I was like, yo, I'm not giving this up. So my reasoning for skipping it originally actually made sense. But when I started talking to some of my close friends who actually did the expedition, they told me something that changed my perspective. They said, it's not even really that serious, man. As soon as you lose everything, you can basically get it back in a day or two. And when you look at the current state of blueprint farming, especially with the buffs we've had, you can get these things like Tempest blueprints, Bobcat, and pretty much whatever blueprint you're looking for way easier than before. At this point, it almost feels like losing everything doesn't even really matter, to be honest. Granted, they did nerf the Hurricane Cache blueprint farm, and I already knew they were going to do that. It wasn't surprising to me at all. When you think about it, that was probably intentional. The developers were basically giving players an incentive. Hey, blueprints are more accessible right now, so why not go ahead and do the expedition? Then, as soon as the expedition window closes and everybody left, boom, the farm gets nerfed. And it's not an accident, trust me. This is a trend in game development. It's by design. They're trying to push players towards the expedition system because it's part of their ecosystem, even if technically it's still your choice whether you want to participate or not. But going back to the first expedition, skipping that one actually made perfect sense. You had to raise a whopping 5 million in-game coins just to do it. And for a lot of players, it was insane. Now, for the sweats, it was easy, of course, but I didn't get to that point. I got about halfway. Then the second expedition comes around and they made it even easier. Not only that, now you get 10 skill points if you did the first one. And that's when the conversation started to change for me. The first time around, people were saying 5 points, that's it, that's not enough. It's not even going to make a dent in the skill tree. But then the second expedition comes around and suddenly you're thinking, okay, all right, 10 points might actually be worth it. Then the third expedition window eventually rolls around and now we're thinking about 15 points. And that's when it actually starts to make a real difference. But the developers did say something in an interview that the skill tree was never intended to be completely maxed out. So this expedition model isn't something that's going to go on forever. You're not going to keep getting 5 points repeatedly until the entire skill tree is filled out. Instead, they talked about potentially revamping skills over time so players can experiment with different paths and builds. But the fact that this isn't meant to be a permanent model actually emphasizes why players should jump on the expedition right now, because if you don't, you could end up trying to play catch up later, and there might not even be a way to catch up. There was a rumor going around that if you skipped an expedition, you could simply recoup all the points you missed later, but that's misunderstood. Let me explain it. You don't just skip an expedition that gave 10 points and then magically receive all 10 the next time you participate. You still only get 5 points per expedition window. So if you missed 10 points, you'd have to complete multiple expeditions afterward just to recover those points you missed. But if the developers eventually stop using this 5-point model, then you're basically SOL. Those missed points are gone. So the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to close that gap, which is why you should jump on it now. And when you really look at what 15 additional skill points can do for your build, it starts to get interesting. I did a guide talking about how I set up my skill tree, and I said if I had more points, I'd do this and that. And personally, I lean heavily into the survival tree first. I always go straight for security breach. It's non-negotiable to me. Being able to open security breach lockers gives you access to weapons, exclusive gear, and rare items early when others don't, and it gives you an advantage. The problem is that with limited points, it can stunt your growth in other areas. Maybe you want to invest all the way into the mobility tree, but you simply don't have enough skill points left to make it meaningful. Those points can get you close to, if not all the way to, another capstone skill. Take Vault Spring, for example. It massively increases your mobility when vaulting and mantling. If you want to reach an advantageous position quickly, you can jump at the apex of your vault and reach places another raider can't reach in time. The same applies when an arc is chasing you or something. Mobility can literally save your life. Then you have the capstone skill, vaults on vaults on vaults. And I mean, you may not think it matters, but it does. Even in the conditioning tree, this has some useful skills. And I will admit, a lot of them are underwhelming. but a few of them help with weight management, allowing you to carry more loot without slowing you down. So the extra points aren't insignificant as we thought in the beginning. Once they add up, then they can really make a difference. But aside from all that, this is a strong case for why you should probably go ahead and do the expedition, especially if you skip the first one, because there's really no point in playing Arc Raiders if you're not engaging with the expedition system. This is just the way of the world in extraction shooters, and I had to just really swallow that pill and accept it, because I find myself getting bored when I'm just playing without purpose. PvP in and of itself is fun. The gameplay itself is fun, you know, but when you have something to chase, it makes the experience more meaningful. And I say that as someone who plays multiple games. I originally came from Tom Clancy's The Division 2, and they just announced their 10-year anniversary season. They revealed a lot of things coming in the future, but if you've been around long enough, it's mostly more of the same. I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. Ubisoft is very good at promotion. They make things sound bigger than what they actually are. And if you're a veteran player like me, and I know some of you watching came from Division, you can see right through that. Ironically, when I went back to check what was going on with the anniversary season in Division 2, it actually made me want to come back and play Arc Raiders again. And when I did come back, I'm like, okay, the expedition window passed and I didn't do it. So I felt like the kid who missed the bus. Me coming back to Arc Raiders says something about the current gaming landscape. Right now, it's honestly not that exciting. Sure, we have Crimson Desert coming soon this month, which is being marketed as a game where you can do everything imaginable. We'll see how that goes. Then there's Marathon, which for me, personally, something I'm just not planning on playing at all. But I still have hope for the future of the Division franchise, though. Even if the anniversary content doesn't have much substance right now, it does feel like a bridge towards something bigger, because releasing a new mode like Survivors and a new DLC coming soon requires serious manpower when it comes to development. And I'm certain that they're working on Tom Clancy's The Division 3 behind the scenes. But with the rise of Arc Raiders and how strong its survival mechanics feel, other developers are inevitably gonna try to replicate that experience. The problem is that The Division already had a survival mode, and it was built around the DNA of that game. The Division is an RPG looter shooter, so its survival mechanics operate differently. You're not managing hunger or dealing with realism style injuries or realistically reloading in the way that you see in Arc Raiders and other realistic type survival games. Instead, for a Division, survival has to exist in the framework where enemies have armor bars, massive health pools, and defeating them requires builds, math, and gear optimization. So if Division wants to compete, which inevitably they have to do in this new landscape, it has to create a survival experience that captures the same tension Arc Raiders creates without compromising the core identity of the Division. I know this pivot was a little bit weird, me just start talking about Division in the midst of talking about Arc Raiders, but I think that because people who follow my channel know that I've played Division, and so many of you have commented that, you know, you're playing Arc Raiders right now, so the conversation is relevant. And welcome to all the new subscribers to my channel. I appreciate you watching this until the end. But if you want a full breakdown of that Division 2 video and how it correlates with the gaming landscape, it's an important topic to discuss. And I have the breakdown right here. I go much deeper into how these two games approach survival completely differently and what it means for the future of the genre. But that'll do for this one, fam. I appreciate you watching until the end. If you like this conversation, like the video, and if you have anything to say about the expedition, did you go on it? Are you going to do it more in the future based on what I said? I just want to hear everything you got to say below. As always, I appreciate y'all. And if you haven't already, don't hesitate to subscribe and join the family. I'll see you in the next one, fam. Be right out.